There is a moment in this episode when Shawn Nelson admits he came within inches of killing LoveSac forever. He was broke, exhausted, stuffing foam in a warehouse, and secretly taking job interviews while building a factory on borrowed money. Then a call came in that forced him to bet everything he had left. What happened next is the reason LoveSac still exists today. By the time you finish this episode, you're going to walk away with 3 things that can shape your life and leadership: how to keep moving when doubt is louder than belief, how to let go of your ego so you can finally scale, and how a simple daily practice can shift you from distracted to deeply present in the moments that matter most. Shawn D. Nelson is the founder of LoveSac, the billion-dollar furniture brand disrupting design and sustainability. What began as a giant beanbag in his parents' basement became a public company with a mission: challenge waste, build better, and lead with purpose. A product inventor, CEO, and host of the Let Me Save You 25 Years podcast, Shawn shares raw lessons on grit, faith, and founder growth. He's a dad of 4, voracious reader, and believer that businesses should shape us, not the other way around. Well, Shawn, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. I had the pleasure of being on your show, and as we talked off air, man, I just really like the way that you show up, man. And so thank you for being here. And I guess I'll just start with LoveSac. Obviously, that's a big deal. You created this amazing thing, and I wonder at what point were you like, okay, this is bigger than just a company. This is a mission. When did that happen for you?
Great question. I think that from the earliest days when we flopped a couple of super sacks down on the lawn at the University of Utah and played some Bob Marley and just tried to sell a few to our friends and family, we knew we had something kind of special because people were trying to buy my t-shirt that I was wearing. Like the name LoveSac was always pretty potent. And the vibe was like a real thing. I felt like we were kind of the star of that event. We were just supposed to be a little vendor in the corner, but everyone wanted to hang out in this vibe we created. So I think as an observer from that earliest moment, we knew that it was more than just like a good product made from foam and fabric. You know what I mean? It was a brand, it was a vibe. But it would be years and years. I mean, it was a few years of kind of slogging it out as a side hustle, making them for friends and family, delivering them in a van on Friday while I'm a waiter paying my way through school, actually, because this little business didn't make any money. They kind of took all my money. The van would break, the shredder would break, have to buy more fabric. So it was kind of like a bummer. And I was ready to walk away from it when I graduated college because it was just like eating my life. And I wanted a real job that would, have a big salary, whatever. But then that big order came, and so we decided to walk away from my real job and try and turn it into. So it's like it just sort of kept sucking me in, almost reluctantly, and it would be, I think, when we started seeing people wanted to buy franchise locations after we opened that first store, again, out of just survival. No retailers wanted to sell our products. So we opened our own store, just trying to keep the company going. But then that started to rip. And I think that's when I first got the inkling that wow, this could scale. This could, we immediately ran off to California to open another store and another store. It's like, okay, this is this could be a national thing. I think that was the time. And that would be, let me think, 2002. So it was 4 years into the whole thing that I first got a whiff that it could be something, big.
Yeah, as you're talking, I have this picture of the book 3 Feet from Gold, and I'm just picturing this moment where, just imagine had you not had the resilience to keep going, to you just said, you know what, enough is enough. I want that salary, man. We had a cool run and it was fun during college, but now it's time to put on the adult work clothes. And I can hear, I don't know that your parents did this, but I can definitely hear other parents saying, all right, man, time to go get a job. And
Mhm.
that's the picture that I had. Tell me about that moment, that the big order, because I don't know the full story. I've read enough to know, but
Sure.
so my audience doesn't know. How close was it to being like, you know what? Lovesac is not what you know today. Maybe it's not in anybody's tip of their tongue. And yet you did have the resilience. You didn't give up.
Yeah. So again, side hustle in college, making them for friends and family. People liked it. And 3 years of that, I was kind of ready to wrap it up. And people that had them though, when I would tell them this, they'd be like, "No, you can't close Lovesac. I love my Lovesac. My kids love the Lovesac. What do you?" And so I said, "Okay, we'll give it one last shot." Red Bull had bought 50 sacks from us. And I thought, wow, like selling 50 at a time was awesome. They'd use them at the Red Bull tents at their bottom of their ski hills, Red Bull Rampage. The athletes would hang out on them. It was cool. And we were getting a little bit of exposure that way. Like, man, if I could only sell, 50 at a time, 100 at a time. So we took it to a trade show in Chicago where that was possible, where other brands would see our product and maybe place orders like that. And um, it cost me like, it was kind of last ditch effort. Like if this doesn't work, okay, I can wash my hands of it and go take the job, because I was graduating from college kind of like the same 30-day window.
Wow.
Had to credit card our way there, had to set up the booth, buy a bunch of banners and brochures and blah, blah, blah. And showed it to a bunch of people. People loved it, taking brochures, whatever. Nobody buys anything. Okay, fly back home. At least I can quit now knowing I tried. And I'm down there in the factory, kind of winding things up, making another order for a friend with last month of school, shredding foam, stuff in a sack. And my phone rings and and I look at it, it's an out of state number. So I turn off the little shredder, brush the foam out of my hair, answer the phone, LoveSac Corporation. And it's the Limited 2. This is one of the biggest retailers in the United States, limited corporation. So this is Victoria's Secret, Bath and Body Works, Express, limited 2s for little girls. They want 12,000 little Lovesacks in their stores for Christmas. They got to have them done in 4 or 5 months. FedEx me a piece of this blue fuzzy fabric with little silver specks in it. It's got to be this fabric, this price. $250,000 order. And they don't know it's me and a buddy and like this wood chipper shredder thing. That's Lovesac. So I say, of course, no problem. We're the biggest not beanbag company in the world. And I go off and I find their fabric at this big fabric trade show in North Carolina. It's $5 a yard. I need it for like half that. And I'm talking to the guy, and he doesn't know I'm a waiter, not yet quite graduated from college. But he's like, look, I'm a direct importer from China. You're not going to get this any cheaper. And I'm about to give up again. I look around this guy's booth of fabric samples, and he's got these boxes of fabric samples behind him with this Chinese writing on these boxes. And I can read it. The part I left out is I'd taken 2 years off of school to go serve a mission for my church, Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. A Mormon missionary, learned Mandarin Chinese, went to Taiwan, did service it was amazing. It was an amazing opportunity. Learned, of course, a ton. But I can read and speak Chinese. And so I read the Chinese on this box. I can't give up now, right? So I fly to Asia. I walk in the 32nd floor of this downtown office building, sales headquarters for this fabric mill. I said, hi, I'm Shawn. I'm here for the Limited 2. I need 30,000 yards of this stuff. By the way, I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. I'm a waiter still. But they say it's $5 a yard. And I did this in English because I didn't want to like show all my cards. And the English speaking sales staff starts talking amongst themselves in Chinese in front of me about how much it costs to mill this fabric. So I knew that they could do it because I'm sitting there listening to them. So I just sit there for 3 days and negotiate. It's $5 and it's $4 and it's $3. And it's okay, we'll do the deal. We'll cut them and sew them and ship them to you. You're going to have to stuff them in America. I said, great. They said, we need a $65,000 deposit to get started. I said, hold on a minute. I went back to my hotel. I called the Limited and I said, hey, I'm here at my factory in China. I'm ready to build your order. I just need a $65,000 deposit to start your order. They said, well, we're the Limited brand. We don't give deposits. I said, well, we're LoveSac. I've never done a deal without a deposit. What's wrong with you? They wire me $65,000 to my University of Utah credit union account because that's all I had. I wire that to China, so I've spent their money. I have to do the deal now, and I fly back to America and build a stuffing factory, a foam shredding stuffing factory on credit cards as I'm graduating college. And as I'm building that factory, I'm still taking a couple of job interviews. Like I remember getting on a plane with a suit and flying to South Carolina as kind of a backup plan for a really cool job, speaking Mandarin, part of this multinational firm. People were recruiting me. And meanwhile, and then fly back home and mopping up this old wood floor in this old decrepit factory, trying to get ready for, 12,000 empty little LoveSacs to arrive that I'd need to stuff by hand.
Wow.
And I just didn't know if we were going to survive that. And in fact, the first day of production, we had a schedule. When the sacks finally showed up and we had the factory built and the shredder figured out, we needed to make 200 units a day. We made 30. And so right from day one, I was like, man, this is not going to work. We're going to lose money. Sure enough, we broke even on the order. We didn't make any money. The price of foam went up. The price of shipping went up. 9/11 happened while I'm in the factory. That's your timestamp. And so I'm ready to kind of walk away again. I'll have this credit card debt, but maybe I can get one of those jobs. I'm still taking the occasional interview. But and none of the furniture stores wanted us. We drove to all the big furniture chains. They laughed at us. They said, your name is stupid. This product, whatever. No one's going to spend $500 on a beanbag at the time. So we're about to just walk away again when finally, and we had also gone to the shopping malls after that. And the shopping malls laughed at us and said, look, we've got Abercrombie and Fitch, Pottery Barn. What's LoveSac? What are you trying to sell? What's this crazy name? They wouldn't give us a space. But one mall, we're at lunch, literally like trying to think about how to wrap things up again. And my phone rings and it's, I answer it, LoveSac Corporation. And it was the shopping mall that had already rejected us. They said, look, we'll let you in for Christmas. Just don't make us look bad. We maxed out my cousin's credit cards this time, carpet and paint, and we got the store open. And then, perhaps the rest is history. And it worked. We were on track to do $1 million out of our first location on that first year. Just a few weeks in, that was the cadence we were running. We couldn't believe it. We couldn't believe people were even buying anything in a shopping mall. No one had ever seen a not beanbag store. So, and I could give you, I don't know, 50 other times where I feel like it was the end of the road, or maybe I should just get out of this before it eats more of my life. But 27 years later, here we are.
Yeah, and I love this, and your painful story is the part that I'm like, I love it because I feel like there's so many people that they're at that tipping point at some point where it's like, dude, I don't know how much more I can give. I'm flying to South Carolina to do another job interview. The boldness of which you operated is fascinating to me at I guess early 20s, to be like, yeah, well, we only do it this way, to this massive corporation. If I were to talk to your parents right now, would they say, Shawn he's always been courageous and bold, and we knew he was going to be this entrepreneur? Or was this just this moment of like, I don't even know where it came from, but this is just who I am. I'm going to own this space. I'm so curious because I think we all want to show up as bravely as you did in that moment in China, to have the patience to not give up the fact that I speak Mandarin, a very difficult language that most guys that look like you don't know how to speak. So I guess my question is, where did that come from, brother? Is that just the way you've always gone through life, like boldly and courageously?
A little bit. Like, I think I definitely, I was definitely like, how do I put it? a rambunctious teenager causing all sorts of trouble in very obnoxious and bold ways. Uh, and so that's definitely in my personality. At the same time, here now I'm pushing 50, not quite. And I have to really practice being bold. And so I do things like I ride the Baja 1000 on a dirt bike, and daily, I try to do things that really make me uncomfortable and risk taking, because I never want to lose that. And it's easy to lose as you get older and you worry about your retirement or your future or your kids, nest egg or whatever. You're just because you're still living. Like right now, like I have not cashed out my LoveSac stock. Like, the wise person would be diversifying and buying, real estate and investing across, and I don't do that for a number of reasons. One, it's like I keep recruiting executives that I expect to be all in, and their options may not vest for years, or they may, it's like, how can I ask them to do that if I'm not all in as well, a little bit? And maybe that's stupid. It probably is. But my point is, it never ends. At least I've chosen to live in a way where it's not like I've made my money and now it's all like house money. Again, I'm not giving financial advice. I'm not saying that this is right. I'm just saying that it does keep me sharp, but it also keeps me living on the edge a little bit, because, bad things can happen. Tariffs can hit. Economies can crash. Stocks can crash. My stock currently is super low at LoveSac. I've had it be worth $1 billion. I've had it be worth a fraction of that as it is right now. And it's stressful. But at the same time, even that kind of, it's like I have to win this Christmas. I have to win next year. I have, so I kind of love that. And it's one of my Shawnisms in the book: embrace economic pressure. As painful as it is, there's just nothing that will make you focus harder than economic pressure. And anyone who's ever started anything knows what I'm talking about, whether it's in the form of credit cards or loans or investors or whatever. So I don't, again, I'm not trying to give anyone financial advice, but it is a powerful force if you choose to just kind of embrace it, if you have the stomach for it. And so I think my parents would tell you, sure, Shawn was pretty dumb and bold and brash. And you have to be dumb and bold and brash to go for anything, especially if there's risk involved. But thankfully, I have knocked off some of my brashest edges. It was my brashness that really caused some of the lowest times that LoveSac experienced, when we had to kind of in the middle start over and whatnot, because I was too headstrong to really hire top talent and really listen to top talent. I was too brash. I knew everything. I was like, I had to put my stamp on everything. I had to prove everything. And now the older I get, the more I try to like stay out of the day-to-day and allow my executives, all of whom are smarter than me, all of whom were educated by the best schools and the best companies for decades, to learn their craft. Who am I to be, as CEO, to be telling them what to do? So it's not to say that I'm disengaged. I'm just saying that like I had to learn some of those lessons the long, hard, painful way.
Well, I think obviously those are the lessons that stick. I'm trying to put myself in your shoes to go from. I just imagine you and your cousin with this massive credit card debt at the early 20s to now. How many employees? I don't know the exact number. How big is LoveSac today?
Yeah. Look,
To give
LoveSac,
context.
yeah, LoveSac will do 700-ish million in sales this year. We're a public company. That's our outlook. We have 2,000 employees. We're profitable, cash flow positive. That wasn't always the case. Thankfully, it is today. And this is in the context of a really terrible environment for a home furnishings, home category. Obviously, like the housing industry drives a lot of, people moving, people changing, upgrading, drives a lot of our sales, because most of our sales are in couches. Like 90% of our business is not the Sacs, it's the Sactionals, the couches that can be with you the rest of your life. So, but LoveSac is a publicly traded company that we're super proud of what we're building. But it's still a tough time by many respects right now in this moment.
I guess I have to imagine, the amount of pride to take something from infancy to publicly traded, 2,000 plus employees, and to go through all those hard times. That might not be that easy to let go of some of that control. And as you matured, as you said, as you're more seasoned, brother, you look fantastic. I wouldn't have thought you were near 50, but I kind of did the math, so that makes sense. Um, Tell me about empowering others and really allowing other people to come in and grow this baby, this brainchild of yours. How was that for you as a leader, man? Was that something
Mm.
that, because I think all of us that have grown something, to whether it's to your level of success or whatever level you get to, man, we got some ego in us, and we have some
Yeah.
like pretty strong feelings about, this is my thing that I created. Not so easy. What did that look like for you?
Well, that's the trick, is that to be a founder, a creator, an entrepreneur, you must have a strong ego and be strong-willed. And by the way, even like to go raise money for your endeavor or to get people to, join your movement, even as employees or partners or whatever, people are attracted to ambition. People are attracted to confidence. So like you have to be super, super confident and exude that on one hand. But if you want to really be sustainably successful, you have to be humble enough in practice, not just in show, but in practice, to hire better than you and let them own it. That's what I say. That's the Shawnism that comes out of my book, Let Me Save You 25 Years. I have a whole podcast episode on this topic. And I was hiring better than me in pretty early days. But the key was, if I'm really honest with myself, I wasn't letting them own it. I was hiring people older than me. I was hiring people with killer resumes to be my head of marketing, my head of retail. But I kind of had to like have the big desk and see everything and approve everything and look at all the marketing and put my stamp on it and, brainstorm and come up with a better line or a better name or a better, you know what I mean? And be the man. And what happens when you do that is that really, really good people, they're not happy in that environment. Really good people enjoy the accountability. They enjoy the chance to call the shots, at least in their realm. And if they kind of feel like you're going to, pull the trump card or by the way, take credit for or need, so like today, for instance, look, I'm still very involved in many aspects of the business for sure, especially things like product development, design, and I'll come up with ideas that are mine, that are really great solutions because I'm a good problem solver. That's another thing. As an entrepreneur, you have to be good at a lot of things. Good at marketing, good at finance, good at design, good at investor interface. So you're good at a lot of things, but that doesn't make me great. There are people out there who have worked for the best companies in the world, had decades of coaching and mentorship that I never get because I was kind of raised by wolves in my own little weird forest. You know what I mean? So I'm good at a lot of things, but I'm not great at anything. But here's my point. I will come up with a cool solution. And I will be now very careful that when, we're celebrating or talking about this product launch coming up, to try to not put it in anyone's face like that was my idea. Don't forget, do you know what I mean? Like I let the team that was working on it own it. And they'll sometimes even forget where it came from. And I have to just be okay with that. Even though it was my idea. But this is like the kind of discipline and patience and ego control that has taken me my whole adult life to figure out. Because in the earlier days, you bet your butt, like everyone would know that was like, don't forget, and so it's weird to have to, on one hand, be uber confident and on the other hand, be uber humble and let all the credit go. And by the way, I'll still get all the credit. I'm the CEO of the company. If there's an article written, it'll be my face on it. So it's like, give away all the credit internally that you possibly can. Hire people that are better than you legitimately and let them own their realm. And be an advisor to them, be at service to them. Like, if I can help you, let me know. If I can brainstorm with you, if you need me to weigh in on something. And that's a very different way of running a business than having the big desk and approving everything. Does that make sense? It's kind of a
No,
clumsy
it's
explanation, but
no, brother. I think it's a beautiful explanation. I think we've gone through this, right? The little ego's talking, and it's like, but this is Shawn. Let's just go ahead and put it on the couch. Shawn's idea, but ultimately, one of my favorite quotes is, it's amazing what can get accomplished if nobody care who gets the credit.
yeah,
And as you're talking, I get this often where it's like, the ego, you want to be like, yeah, look, me, because we all want recognition. And I guess the lesson that I'm hearing is, remember that as you bring on these incredible people, they also want that recognition. And I think as leaders, the one thing I learned too is the more I give out EPR, encourage, praise, and recognize, the more that great things are accomplished. And then guess what? As you said, you being the CEO, you're getting that love.
that's right.
Um,
Not only that, but these people are going to make you rich. So like, let them do that. Like, and let them have all the credit they can possibly take, even if they overreach and take credit for your ideas. Let them have it. Let them have it, and applaud them yourself. And you know what I mean? It's so crazy. But if I'm being honest, in those early days, I had these great people, but I wanted too much, and so we learn.
Yeah. I used to tell people all the time, there's so many times I had this business partner. As long as it was his idea, it was great. And so it took me a while to figure out, like, oh, if I would be in a meeting and I'd be like, literally, I'll call him Dave. Hey, Dave, you remember when you came up with this idea? And Dave knows he didn't come up with it, but because I put it out there as Dave's idea, he's like, oh, dude, yeah. And so he runs with it. Who cares who gets the credit ultimately? And
Yeah.
what I used to tell people is, it's amazing. So many people would rather be right and lose than be wrong and win. And I'm fine with being wrong and winning all day long. Like, look, if Dave needs the idea and the credit, if that's going to get us where we want to go, let's do that. Now, maybe Dave wasn't the right business partner to have. That's fine. And he wasn't. But you have to learn these things. I want to ask you about your faith, and the only reason I say, not specific to your mission or anything, but faith in what you were doing. That is, I think, for me, been one of the biggest challenges, especially facing adversity, especially when you're like, I don't know, you have mortgage bills piling up, you have this going on. I think that's when faith and belief gets tested the most. And clearly, you mentioned having to almost restart midway through, and like, your faith got tested, I'm sure, countless times. Tell me about you continuing to have that and that faith, and what that looks like for you on a daily. Because I will tell you, for me personally, it's one of the things I have to be so intentional about. When the doubts creep in, when the naysayers are winning, it's that faith and belief that I have to make sure is so strong.
100%. Faith is power, and there are many different types of faith that can exist simultaneously. But like any sort of power, it has to be harnessed and applied. It doesn't just happen. There are people, I'm guessing there are a lot of people around me that perceive me as, like, I don't know, super optimistic and upbeat and like hard charging, I don't know, uh, manifester of good outcomes or something. And hopefully some of that's true, but like, I guess maybe some of it comes a bit naturally to me, like we all have some kind of strengths, but I don't feel that way. I feel like I have to really fight for that daily optimism, especially when things are really tough. Obviously, we go through periods where sometimes the wind's at our back and like you're in flow state and things are ripping or something. But more often than not, it's a slog. It's hard. Even, getting out of bed and facing the day can be, you can feel the weight of whatever it is that's oppressing you, your giant mortgage, your loans due, your just the state of the economy, the world, whatever. So I absolutely do a lot of things to bolster and maintain faith across a lot of different aspects. First and foremost, I am religious and I advocate uh, faith in God and advocate belief in a higher power. And I am totally devout in that realm as much as I can be. I'm not nearly a good enough person, but my faith is unshakable. And that gives me a ton of strength because, I wear this ring. My updated wedding ring has 6 black diamonds in it. It represents, me and my wife and my 4 children. And on the inside, it reads, everything else is dust.
Mm.
And it's one of those Shaunisms that's in my book that I try to like remind myself on the daily, like even these big things like a LoveSac and its 2,000 employees, if I am not present and you know there and building this eternal family that I believe in, the rest is garbage. And I don't mean to like be disrespectful to my team and employees and everything we're building, but like that's number one for me, right? So that stems from my belief in God and the specific faith that I hold in that realm. But then there's you know faith. Let me go to the most like the furthest away from that in the product. I was just saying this to my partners the other day. I went out and worked Black Friday in my stores. I've done it for 25 years now. Every single year, dawn, before the sun comes up to the sun's gone, I've worked retail, and I just go out and sell in some of my stores, and I meet customers, and I learn, and I learn so much by doing this. Obviously, talking to my employees, what's going on, and what's really, and doing it myself and experiencing that. Staying sharp. I can still do a Sactionals demo, but my point is, I'm reminded that if I can just get people into those stores, our product is amazing. It is legitimately jaw dropping. You've experienced just the blanket.
So good, you guys.
We make the best stuff. It's thoughtful. It's even packaged well, right? It'll last you the rest of your life. Everything we make. All I got to do is get people in there to experience that. That's a faith in the product. And by the way, I renew that faith because sometimes you start doubting or like you worry about, and you see your competition doing stuff online or on Instagram. They're like, dang, they're good and they're really coming at us. But then, putting yourself, not being afraid to go spend time in the stores on the front lines of your business, whatever that is for you, on the front lines of your business, you can renew your faith in the goodness of what you're doing while also staying sharp on all of your shortcomings and ways that you need to improve, right? So, and then everywhere in the middle. So from faith in the product, whatever that is for you, to faith in God, and then faith in yourself. I wake up every morning and there's only a couple things because we can all have these routines and it can be really overwhelming sometimes. Like, okay, I'm going to work out. I got to read books. I got to, right? All the New Year's resolutions. So I boiled it down to just 2. And for me, I read my scriptures because that puts me in, and you can have your own version of that, meditation, all the things that are good for your soul, however you want to define that. For me, 2 things. I read my scriptures and I recite my morning mantra. So this is so cheesy.
Yes, I
But
love
my
it.
morning mantra is just a bunch of one-liners that I say to myself. You could call them affirmations, I guess. But like all kinds of little tidbits I've learned along the way. Most of them are not true. They're things that I want to be true. Right. So for instance, I'll just share you a line or two. And it takes me about a couple minutes to read through this, but I try to do it out loud. Don't always succeed. But these are things, and it's amazing the power of repetition. You do this for a year or 2 or 3 or 5, and a lot of it really seeps into your bones. And you experience a lot of cognitive dissonance when you're not living up to I'll read you some of them, right?
Please, brother, share.
Uh,
My audience knows we do affirmations, man. We're believers in this, so I'd love to hear it.
all right. I am excited to be with my kids every moment I can, and I look for opportunities to be present, mentor, and teach them, and to be helpful to Tiffany, my wife. I say yes to them when they ask me to play. I put down my phone and look in their eyes and listen to them. I could, there's a lot of stuff in here. I remind myself even of like my financial situation and why I'm doing the things I'm doing, and I've made the decisions I made, because we can second guess ourselves like, oh man, maybe I should have done this or that differently. But we make decisions that sometimes we got to live with the consequences. It's like I was saying to you earlier about even like my own stock that I haven't sold. And I remind myself of things like that so that I'm not sitting there thinking about it all day and then making haphazard decisions. It's like I've made these decisions. I'm gonna and obviously I can edit this anytime. It's just in the notes on my phone. But the power of repetition. Um, I don't have a middle-aged gut because I don't eat very much. And look, I wish that was true. It's a little bit true. I'm not in the best shape, but like it's like I have to remind myself of that, or I just will just eat too much. You know what I mean? So it's so dumb. But these are the things that I'm saying to myself. I make people feel great about themselves. I deprecate myself because people don't remember much of what you say, but do remember how you make them feel. I'm quoting Maya Angelou, obviously. Um, I'm kind to those in passing. I look in their eyes. I'm talking about people ringing me out at the check stand, because otherwise I get super busy and, I can just be that guy. And this is the way, and like I could go on and on and on. But my point is, these are the ways I want to show up. And so just these two things. And in there it says, it's so even if I don't work out or do some of, whatever, it's like if I've just done those two things, I can feel like I'm doing something. And so I think a morning routine, and I've tried to make it fairly simple, is just critical.
I love it. I mean, when you said two things, I was like, oh, do tell. And you and I have talked off air, so I kind of had an idea where you're going to go with that. But you said something so casually. I have to hit on this point. How many publicly traded CEOs are working retail on the busiest day of the year? It's incredible, brother. And I mean that. I think that's what's so attractive is your humility when it comes to you're not above this. You still see yourself, to a degree, back, with that, flying to China and like imprinting your own DNA onto this, even as big as it is now. I don't know. You don't hear that very often. And I've interviewed a lot of executives. Not that they're not humble, but man, it's very, very cool. Um, Tell me how that shows up for your kids. I'm curious because you mentioned your family. You have 4 kiddos. One of the things, this word legacy gets put out there. And I love what your ring said. All of the rest, I think, is dust. I'm paraphrasing for a moment.
Yeah.
But isn't that the truth? Like, you know what? What really, really matters is how you made them feel. I wonder at what age they actually knew what dad even did. Like my kids, my 19 and 16, they kind of have an idea of what I do now, but that's never been important to them, right? Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
dad. What
Yeah.
does that
I
look
mean,
like with you and your family, brother?
I would really love my kids to read my book, but I don't think they have. And I'm not going to force it down their throat. And then if they flip through it, I think my son's right. Anyway, and I'm not trying to get them to be the CEO of LoveSac someday. I'm not trying to coach them up to that. I want them to just become what they want to become. And by the way, if someone really did take an interest in business that way, of course I would try to cultivate that. But like, um, it's like I said in my mantra, I just want to have been there, really been there for them, with them, and for me. And it's tough because like I'm not wired that way. If I'm being honest, like in my wife, I mean, dude, I got so lucky. I couldn't have known when I was dating her that she would be a genuinely awesome mom. Like, how would you know that? You can't know that. And thankfully she is. But I'm really at risk of not being a genuinely awesome dad because my mind is always somewhere else. I'm always, trying to soak in information, read an article, you listen to a podcast, do this thing, complete this task, knock off my checklist, keep the garage clean, whatever, prepare, so it's like, if I don't remind myself through that morning mantra every day to show up that way, and create that cognitive dissonance, I really believe in cognitive dissonance. It's one of the reasons I think it's no problem for me to go do that Black Friday thing as a CEO is because one of our core values at LoveSac is being willing to sweep floors. Well, if I'm actually going to preach that to everyone on kind of a daily, weekly basis, because we only have a few core values, I have to live up to it, or I'm like a straight up hypocrite, and that's what destroys company culture from the top down. So like I have to go do that. The year I don't do that, I would just feel like a coward, and I think people would notice. And it's not a big deal. It's not like I'm impacting the sales really. I have 300 stores. I'm like, what can I even do? It's the principle of the thing. But like it's not hard for me because like I have to do it. It's just I would feel like dirty if I didn't because I've created that cognitive dissonance through the very shaping of the values of my company, right? That I constantly preaching. So back to my family, my morning mantra, so like, and it'll catch me. My daughter will come up, Dad, like, come jump on the tramp, and I'm doing something important. But unless it's like I cannot depart from this thing, you don't think that I remember what I recited that morning? I put down my phone and I play with them when they ask, and so I'll go jump on the tramp. And it's not always convenient, man. It's never convenient, and it's not important. Like like that one moment of jumping on the tramp, but you add that up over her whole childhood. And even if it's not important to her, like what have I lost by just being so busy and important? So the legacy thing, that kind of bothers me because it sounds very egotistical, very ego driven, but I appreciate where it's coming from, right? Like at the end of the day, I mean, it's one of the lines of my mantra. I will not just be pleasantly remembered, but I will try to positively impact everyone I can. Now, I am not that guy yet as much as I want to be. I'm not the guy who, people just can't wait to see and who shows up and everyone brightens up the room. I have moments maybe where I hopefully show up that way, but I'm striving to be that guy, because, and it's not about being remembered for being a bazillionaire or whatever. Like that's not remotely what I mean. I just mean as a human, that's good and useful to others and uplifting to others. That's it for me, including and especially, of course, my children. So, anyway.
No, brother. I'm picturing. I've never met your daughter. I don't know what she looks like, but I picture this little girl jumping on the tramp, and I've been playing with this concept that we don't remember our first time. Typically, of most things, we're not going to know what is our last time, and so this time, this moment, this time, this one time jumping on the tramp, it's like, yeah, it is everything actually, because we don't know if that's our last time. And it's not to be morbid, but that's just the truth. My wife and I were talking about this the other day. Our youngest son now drives, and before he had his license, my wife often was like, "Gosh, I'm such an underpaid Uber driver." You know what she misses now, Shawn?
Yeah.
Time in the car with him.
Yeah.
And brother, I mean, I remember my parents saying, "Hey, just it goes by that fast." And isn't it true? I mean, I cannot believe I have a sophomore in college. It pains me that he's away. I'm so excited he's coming home in 2 days. And I don't mean to get off subject other than this time. You know what I mean? Like this is all we have. And I think the more that we can stay in that present moment and stay with that perspective, what a fulfilling life.
I did a great podcast with the topic about confidence and how we get to choose confidence, and that was the topic. But my guest shared such a great insight, even though that was our topic. it stuck with me. Being present is more important than being confident. We started this podcast talking about the confidence it takes to get stuff done and what's expected from an entrepreneur or a leader of any kind, whatever. But I've come to adopt that. Being present is more important than being confident. And especially if we have the desired outcome like I described, where it's like if we want to stay legacy, I hope to leave a legacy where I'm remembered for, I don't know, being a great dude. I think being present is 80% of the game. And that includes at the checkout stand. And it's cool because you develop these habits. And now I have this habit as I'm tapping my card, it's like I look up and I look at that person and I try to identify their eye color because that'll make me look in their eyes. And it's just quick, and I just say thanks. And I can tell in that moment that there's probably 9 out of 10 people that don't even like make eye contact with this human. Yeah. And I know that's a dumb thing, but like these habits can actually help us become the person we're trying to become if we're willing to just make the extra effort to develop the habit, which takes, in my case, a morning mantra, daily effort, cognitive dissonance applied, and then a little bit of energy,
World would be a little better, brother, if we all did these. You keep calling them dumb things. They're not like that seeing their eye color, that actually putting your phone down and being with another human. Oh, I miss the 80s. I miss not having these stupid phones. And I look, they're amazing for so many things. And what you just talked about, if we could get everybody to just do that, like that simple thing, look in the other person's eye color, be comfortable with that.
It starts with you, whoever you is, right? Like you can't get everybody, but you can get yourself. Yep. And so, and look, I'm not perfect at any of these things. And I'm sure that I mess it up with my kids as much as I ever get it right, but I'm trying. And that's, I think, a big part of all this is just, are you actually trying or are you just kidding yourself?
How should we end this, brother? I mean, it's 45 minutes, like we talked about, blink and it's gone. I could ask you a million more questions, but I always ask, what didn't I know enough to ask you? How do you want to end this episode? Because you're a fun guy. I enjoy my time with you. You make me a better person when I talk to you. How do you want to finish this thing, man?
Look, I think that we're both in the fight to uplift ourselves and uplift others, right? And I think that's a worthy battle. And I'm saying this to anyone listening. I know a lot of billionaires and 100 millionaires, and a lot of them are pretty cool and generally happy. But I think that I've been around it enough to know that, as trite as it sounds, a certain amount of money certainly makes life a lot more fun and interesting, but beyond a pretty, I don't know, low threshold, the rest is how you show up, and no amount of money can change that. Because I know a lot of unhappy people who have ridiculous amounts of money. And so practice showing up, practice. And I'm saying this to myself, be more fastidious with whatever version of your morning mantra or the things that will somehow allow you to, day by day, year by year, become just a little bit of a better human being. And I think that's the most we can do, not just for ourselves, but for those around us. And to your point, if everyone was really making an honest effort to do that, I think the world could be an amazing place. But I don't think enough people are actually honestly trying to do that. So that's what I wish.
Yeah, I love it. Brother, I appreciate the way you show up. I think you're pretty easy to find. But guys, if you haven't, I said it off air. I will say it again. The nicest gift, no offense to any other gifts I've received, but the nicest podcast gift I have received is this LoveSac blanket. Oh, yeah. It is a fight every evening when we get together to watch our show, who's getting the blanket. So thank you for that. And just the way you show up, brother. You're an awesome dude, and I appreciate you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
What you just heard was not a story about furniture. It was a blueprint for staying in the fight when everything around you is telling you to quit. You heard how close LoveSac came to disappearing and how choosing faith over fear kept Shawn moving. You heard how a founder becomes a real leader by giving away the credit, trusting smarter people, and showing up on the front lines long after he could have walked away. And you heard how a 2-minute mantra practiced daily can reshape the way you show up for your family and your team. If this episode made you think differently about pressure, ego, or presence, share it with one person who needs that shift today. That is how this show grows and how these conversations reach the people who are in the trenches building something that matters. And if you want more episodes like this, subscribe and leave a review. It helps us bring on leaders who are willing to tell the truth about the hard parts and the hopeful parts of chasing a dream. Let us keep growing together. Let us all go win. Appreciate you all. Talk soon.